Good morning. I've had a little bit of a break in the Walking with Pastor Keith videos, had a little time away and wanted to get back into the saddle today. Yesterday, September 16th, was the 34th anniversary of the church, so I'm officially beginning my 35th year as the pastor of Springcreek. Yesterday at lunch, some of the pastors and I went to eat together, and while we were sitting there at lunch, Pastor Gary asked me, is there anything over the last 34 years that you would do differently? And of course, to me, that's a never-ending list. There's so much I would do differently. I wish that I had, way before I started the church, leaned into my own mental and spiritual health, that I would have grown and faced my codependency, because my codependency cost me so much in the early ministry. It led to workaholism. This need to be liked led me to bend over backwards to help people, even if it cost my family dearly. This codependency, this lack of self, made it so that I easily copied others and was not truly living in an authentic self. So there's all kinds of things there I would change. I would change in terms of how I look at what it means to grow a church. We did a lot of entertaining in the early days, and we had the crowds. Springcreek was nonstop growing, but it was only growing numerically. It wasn't growing spiritually, because we weren't discipling our people. Let me tell you, to entertain and to have a big crowd is the easiest thing to do in terms of church growth, if you think that's what church growth is. It's easy to get a lot of people coming to your building, but that doesn't mean you're building a church. You're building a crowd, but to build disciples means having relationships and pouring your life into these people and having them become more and more like Jesus every day. I wish we'd done a lot more discipleship. I wish that we had understood the message of Scripture about how important the poor are in the story that God's been telling for all time, that we would have been a greater serving church from the very beginning, that we would have been connected intimately in small groups and use small groups to grow the church. There's so many things that I would change. But at the same time, I don't want to give you the impression that I'm a person living with deep and profound regrets, because I'm not. When I knew better, I did better. And to me, that's the key to growth. If you're not growing, then you don't look back on your life and say, I wish I knew back then what I know now. You don't look back on your life and say, wow, if I could do that differently, I would do it differently. People who aren't growing think of themselves as making all the right choices all the right times. And that's just not simply true of anybody. We all make mistakes. We all imperfectly follow God, and God uses us in our imperfection, which is the amazing thing about it all, isn't it? But if you constantly learn and you're being challenged, you look back and sometimes you say, man, how did I ever think that way, the way I thought in the past? And if you're not doing that, then really what you have is maybe 1 year of experience with God that's been repeated every year for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years or 40 years. You can actually do that for the rest of your life, because you're not really growing. A growing person can look back on their life and say, there are things I wish I could change. But when you know better, you do better. And when you do better because you know better, then God says, this is a person I can trust with more good stuff to grow their life, because they're taking the truth I give them and they're implementing it into their life. And that's the kind of person God can bless with true growth. So if you want to be a growing individual, you want to be a growing Christian, then take what you're learning, apply it to your life. Don't just learn it up here, learn it in here. Learn it throughout your life. Live it like it's true, because it is. God bless you. I'll see you again real soon.